All right. Hello, 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 and welcome to today's video where we're going to be talking about how to transcend living from fear. So, this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because I feel like I I just really care about this. And I know that this is something that is very, very, very commonly talked about in the spirituality and the wellness and the healing and the all of these worlds of this idea that we need to live from love instead of living from fear, that we need to work from love instead of fear. And I feel like there is a lot of confusion out there as to what it actually means to live a life of love and what it means to be loving, and what it means to be in a state of fear and what that actually is. And I kind of feel like there are a lot of people who have very distinct opinions on what is fear and what is love and what is information that we should be taking in and what is information we shouldn't, and what's fear based and what's not. And I feel like there's a lot also shaming in the spirituality and the self-help and the personal growth communities around what people perceive to be fear states, and rather than having compassion for people who have different circumstances than us or different perspectives than us or different information than us, and rather than even being able to listen to other perspectives than our own, we shut it down and we say, okay, they're just like coming from fear, they're working from fear, they're at a lower vibration, they're da 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 da. And again, this is not to say that we don't have the right and that it's not sometimes very, very healthy to remove yourself from certain circumstances where the same information is being fed at you over and over and over again, that you just kind of know where it's coming from, and it's that person's thing and that's where they're at, and it's just not something you want to like spread on your platform or whatever. Like, their boundaries are important. But I think the like hard stop of like, this is a toxic person or this is a toxic mindset or this person is in fear, like that kind of stuff. And then again, like the shaming around that and the cancel culture and all of these things, I think that the idea of what being in a state of love is and what being in a state of fear is has gotten very confused. I also want to say that, um, on the flip side of things, right? So like we have the I'm just going to cancel you. I'm just going to cut you out of my life. I'm just not even give you a chance. If you have a different opinion than me, I'm not even going to talk to you. Like, not even once. Like, I'm not even going to give it a chance. And I'm just going to like cut you off. And we kind of have that side of things. And then we have the people who go kind of way too far the other way, which is just like, I'm going to continue to open myself up to anyone and everything. And I'm just going to sort of offer myself on the altar of just whatever anyone wants to say to me, whenever anyone wants to spew, whatever anyone wants to process at me, whatever anyone kind of wants to. If someone engages with me, I have to engage with them back, and like, I'm being unloving if I don't engage. And those are kind of like two extremes of the kind of center point that we're going to talk about today. And then in the non kind of like interacting with people or whatever, but just in the personal sense, like in our own day-to-day life, when we think about what it's like to live in a state of love versus living in a state of fear, I think a lot of people can kind of over mysticalize, over kind of fantasize about what living in a state of love is, meaning thinking that if we're really in a state of love and if we're really living from a place of love, we're like in bliss all the time and nothing ever bothers us and we never have another negative emotion again and we are never afraid again. Like, we never experience the emotion of fear. We never experience like our nervous system saying like, no, don't go there, no, don't do that. Like, we feel perpetually um, safe, like we have all the answers, and and or thinking, right, that if so like that kind of idea that like being in a state of love means no one can ever hurt you again, nothing can ever hurt you again. You should be in this state of like transcended bliss where you're perpetually joyful and, like I say, like untouchable by the world and untouchable by things, and everything just feels good all the time, as like becoming not a human basically. And I think, again, right, this sets us up for not being able to actually live a real life of love, because we've created this fantasy of what a life of love is that isn't what it is. So we're going for a thing that doesn't exist and therefore can't have the reality of the thing. Yeah? So that's a big part of it. And so, like, again, like, and or like I say, kind of living on the other side where we're saying that we're living from love, but really what we mean is I'm going to cancel out and get rid of and explain away and cognitive bias away anything that doesn't align with my current worldview. Anything that contradicts what I believe to be the best thing, the right thing. And when there's evidence presented to me of my way of doing things, my way of living, my ideas about life, if any kind of evidence comes into my sphere that shows me that I'm incorrect, I'm not getting the results that I want, I'm not actually happy, I'm not actually thriving, uh, I'm not getting the results that I thought I was going to get from this, that we double down and we shut something out and we just say, no, 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 that's fear. Like other people's opinion is fear, other people's or other information is wrong, and I don't want to look at that, and here's all the reasons why it's wrong, and I'm just gonna like stick with what I'm doing. And right, these kind of like, again, just thinking, no, like that's not what a life of love actually is. So this is why I want to speak to this, because I believe that living a life of love is actually very practical and very grounded, because that's the other thing. When I hear a lot of spiritual teachers talk about living a life of love, it's a lot of flowery language and a lot of very nice sounding ideas, but there's no kind of like practical, like there's like this whole like, especially in the world right now of kind of like alternative media, where we're being told that all these horrible things are happening in government, and these plans and these plots and these schemes that have been going on for decades or centuries, and all this stuff, and then the answer is just don't live your life in fear. But it's like, okay, but what does that mean? Like, if that's the solution to these horrible things that are happening, how? Like, what does it mean to not live my life in fear? Like, just don't have fear. Just don't be afraid. Just live your life and do your thing. And it's like, okay, but that's not practical, right? Like, that doesn't mean anything. Like, what does it mean when I say live a life of love? Because like, there has to be something more concrete than just don't be afraid. Because again, like, that is so vague. Like, and I've heard a lot of spiritual teachers talk about being in a state of love. And I think a lot of the time they're just confusing love with acceptance of everything, which, okay, that's like a part of living a life of love, but that's not all of it. Or it's like I say, it's said as though like that's an obvious thing. Like, little life of love, and that's obvious what that is. And then if you just like really think about it, it's like it isn't though. And most of us are living from fear all the time, have no idea that we're doing it, and then we're told a whole bunch of like very scary information. Like, that's the other kind of thing that I was with these kind of spiritual teachers, and especially with the like I say, the people that are telling us that there's these evil plots and schemes going on everywhere. It's like, you're telling me all this like very frightening information and information that I essentially have like absolutely no power to do anything about. And then you're telling me that the solution is to just live a life of love. And then giving me no concrete answers for what that even means. And I just think, what's the utility in that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't seem to be helpful or practical in any ways. So that's why I really wanted to make this video, because I feel like, no, like, living a life of love is actually quite practical and pragmatic. and we can boil it down to like what it actually means, and we can address that we are a human race who is, first off, like we really need to just accept this. And I know that this is hard because we're in the fishbowl, and so we're the fish in water, and we've never seen anything but water. We don't realize we're in water, and we need to recognize that as a humanity. So the first thing is that we are a humanity that is traumatized. Like there is just no way around it. We see ourselves as evil. We see ourselves as stupid at each other. We see evil and we see stupidity, where what there actually is trauma and unawareness. Okay? And until we can grasp that, like, this is why humanity is how it is. This is why we are where we are. This is why we have the chaos and the destruction in the human race that we have. We don't have evil people. We don't have stupid people. We have people who are ignorant to how reality functions, who have had experiences that have traumatized them. We definitely have people who have less developed and more developed consciousness, like capacity to take in, understand, process, and then act from new information. We are not equal in our capacities to do that. So I know that we can look at people and we can look at the results that people are getting, and we can say, like, look, like, how can you not see that your behavior is harmful? Like, I know you are aware that you are hurting people. Like, and this is macro level, this is micro level. Like, kings and queens and billionaires and millionaires, like, we look at them and we're like, how can you not see? You're hoarding all this wealth for yourself. Your employees are paid less than minimum wage. You stop them from unionizing. You do all this, like, clearly evil shit. You must be evil, because there's no way you're not aware of what you're doing. There's no way that you can't see the consequence. Like, when we look at people who are racist or who are sexist or who are homophobic or who are transphobic, who fight against the idea of, like, pseudo amounts of socialism so that we just don't have to have, like, a massive homeless population. Like, when we look at people who are like that, I know it's so easy to just be like, they are objectively bad people. That they have terrible ideas, and they must know that they're being selfish, that they're hurting other people, that their way of being is just blatantly wrong. And why can't they understand? They must just be evil. And I say, again, I totally understand that. I understand that impulse. I've been there. I feel that way sometimes. But I know that the reality is that the system that they were born into bred them to be that way. Like, we are all a part of this system that absolutely asks us to sacrifice our humanity to have success. We are a traumatized humanity that for the entirety of humanity, we have had scarcity. We have had not enough, right? We've seen literal physical resources not be available, the weather, diseases, and then we've had, like, colonization from the very beginning of humanity. Humanity has had one experience of, we don't have enough resources. We don't know how to procure enough resources other than to go and take them from other people. And we do that through violence. We do that through obtaining their land, taking control, taking ownership, exerting our power, right? These very primal, going after resources, going after power, going after sex. These very primal survivalist urges This has been how humanity has evolved forever. This did not just start now. This is not new to humanity. We don't have a resurgence of it. It's how it's always been. It's how it's always been. Because we didn't understand how things work. Like, we have to remember that we were animals that woke up to self-awareness. Like, we evolved and we didn't come with all this awareness, like even thinking of like humanity now and everything we know now about how to collect resources, how to redistribute them, how to care for each other, how to like run large societies. Like, all of this information we have now, we didn't have it 100 years ago. We didn't have it 200 years ago. We didn't have it 1,000 years ago. We've been evolving. We've been learning from our mistakes. We've been learning from these things. And again, through an experience of trauma. So trauma, all the way up to capitalism and like America and Canada, like these places that were absolutely colonized and murder and genocide and slavery and all of these things, that like that's what created the abundance that is there. Like, that's how wealth was created. And then we're wondering why society is so messed up for some people, like seemingly so set up for the success of some and at the detriment of others. But it's like, because it was founded on that. Like, that's how it started. And so of course that's how it is. That's how the system was set up. So the more we look at these mechanistic, and again, right, where did that come from? That came from, if not enough resources is the worst thing ever, more resources is the best thing ever. And in order to have more resources, I need to take control, because there isn't enough for everyone to have abundance, right? Like, everyone knew that. Kings and queens knew that. Slave owners knew that there was enough for everyone to have enough, or there was enough for some people to have a lot, and most people to have enough or way not enough. And those were the systems we had. We just have these systems of hierarchy and dominance, because we haven't quite yet figured out that redistribution, so everyone has enough, creates that security we're all looking for. And then we can get on with life to fulfill those inner desires that having stuff will never fulfill. Right? Like, we're still haven't caught on to, yeah, we got to satisfy those lower hierarchy of needs. Like, yes, we need enough. Yes, we need stability and food and shelter and clothing and like a reasonable level of knowing that there's going to be something there tomorrow. If we get hurt, or if we get lost, or if we need help, that there's some sort of safety net. Like, we need that. And I think humanity is starting to come to a place where we can acknowledge that. And then when we have that, more stuff doesn't make us happier. More security in the physical world isn't the answer anymore. That then we have to go into self-actualization. Then we have to go into self-expression. And because of the way the system is set up, which is you have to sacrifice your humanity. You have to sacrifice who you are. You have to sacrifice what you are. You have to sacrifice anything that might be unique to you, that doesn't work in the system of wealth accumulation, in order to have enough. By the time you get to enough, the self-actualization is almost impossible, because your nervous system is so wired and so traumatized and so programmed that acceptance in the system is the only way. Stuff is the only way. The only way to get stuff is to be accepted. The only way to be accepted is to sacrifice my humanity and be the robot that everyone wants me to be. that then we're just lost in this snake eating its own tail stuff for the sake of fucking stuff. And then we can understand why Jeff Bezos is the way that he is. Because he's scared and he's traumatized. Like, only a person who is scared and traumatized could do what he is doing. He's not evil. He had to lose himself to become that. He had to. So does this make what he's doing right and okay? Absolutely not. No. Right? When we identify something as trauma, that doesn't mean, oh, okay, it's okay now. Because I know that a lot of people feel that way. That if we're not calling something out as evil, if we're not calling it out as wrong, if we're not calling it out as horrendous, we're saying it's okay. And it's like, no, because there's still a reality. Yeah? And part of living from love is understanding that there is a fundamental structure to our reality. And we don't need morality to tell us what is good and bad, right and wrong. We need results. Results tell us, if you're doing this thing and it is causing chaos and destruction, it is chaotic and destructive. That's not a moral judgment. That is an observation of fact. And as life, we are one with life. We are a species of animals. We are a part of nature. And in this reality that we live in, life wants to grow. It wants to evolve. It wants to construct. It wants to take the structure that we have and build upon it. That's what pleasure is. That's what being alive is. That's what a growth path is. That's what life generation is. That is my definition of love. A life of love is a life of growth, expansion, and evolution. A life of fear is a life of destruction and chaos and dysregulation and disruption. So we can just say, there are just objective facts. There are just objective realities of harm and not harm. Chaos, construction, devolution, evolution. We don't need morality to tell us what is right and wrong. We can just look at results. We don't need good and evil. We can just say chaos, construction, devolution, evolution. We want evolution. So the things that cause destruction and chaos are the things we want to understand so that we can evolve those patterns. That's it. So now let's take this personal. This is why I teach self-love first and foremost. Because to be in a state of love, to live a life of love, means that you are constantly open to evolution and change. It means that you are not living from my security, my comfort, and my knowing that I'm good comes from the idea that I already know everything. That I'm already right, that I have my views of the world, and I'm just constantly looking to reinforce my view. I'm constantly looking for how I'm right, and whatever evidence that comes into my field, the results that I get from my actions, the things that I'm actually doing, the things that are actually happening to me, including my negative emotions and my depression and my anxiety when I go after trying to have this job and blah, 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 blah. Despite what all that might be telling me, it doesn't matter. This is the right way. What my religion is the right way, my political standing is the right way, my spiritual beliefs are the right way, my diet is the right way, whatever it is, I'm doing it right. And if there's pain and chaos in my life, it's because of someone else or something else. They're wrong. I'm just not doing it right, right? I have the right answer. I'm doing the right diet. I'm doing the right thing. It's just not working because I'm not doing it right. And I just have to keep trying and keep doing it and keep doing it. until it works. I need to keep looking for the spiritual teacher who tells me that what I already believe is true. And when I finally find that teacher who tells me and reinforces everything that I know is already true and that's so good, then I'm going to be transcended and be happy. That's fear. I am only secure if I know that everything that I already believe is true. That I have found the truth. I know it. It's mine. My general way of life, my experience, all these things are right. And that's how I live my life. The echo chamber. Yes? The algorithm. And we gotta remember, right? The algorithm was created to enhance the profits of people selling things online. That's where it came from. We're just going to feedback loop things that are similar to the things you already looked into. Because if you were willing to buy this and this, we can advertise to you this and this, which are similar things, and you might buy those. That's where the algorithm came from. Showing you more of the things you already looked at. And now it's evolved into showing you more of the things you already believe, the articles you've already read, the YouTube videos you've already watched, the Facebook posts you've already liked, the things you agree with, to create your little echo chamber so that we can keep feeding that to you. Because again, the longer you're online, the more advertisers have your eyeballs. Regular media, alternative media work the same way. They're sensationalizing and dramatizing and blowing everything out of proportion, playing to our fears and our traumas and our childhood wounds, fantasticalizing stories, because it keeps you there. And then that's good for ad revenue. And then McDonald's gets more money. And that's why it's happening. Right? We're being manipulated. So that's that fear state, because we're in a state of fear. Because we only want to hear that we're right. We only want to hear that what we already know is true, and we only want to hear from people who believe what we believe, or who think that the other side is stupid, and we have our idea that our facts are facts. So the other side's facts aren't even facts. I've heard this argument so many times, of like, the other side doesn't even have facts. Like, look at their facts. Their facts are stupid. They're just arguing dumb stuff because they don't even have facts. Because my definition of facts are so different from theirs. That's fear. Okay? To live a life of love, instead of finding our security in I already know everything, and I'm just looking to reinforce that I already know everything, we find our security in I am capable of learning. When I am presented with new information, I'm capable of integrating that new information. When I am presented with a challenge that I don't understand, I'm capable of saying, okay, there's something here I don't see. If I really had all the answers, if the thing I was doing was working, this problem wouldn't exist. Therefore, if this problem exists, I clearly don't know. And I have to discover something. And I have to expand what I'm aware of. And I have to grow. And I have to learn something new and then integrate that into my worldview. I have to become more complex. Yes, so I get a lot of questions about like the law of attraction. And people generally coming from like a religious background where it's like, this is just how it is, you have no control, which is really just the child version of life. Life is just how it is. You essentially have no control because your parents or your God in the sky or your government or whatever you want to call your parent is in control of your life. That's our childhood experience. We don't have autonomy. We can't make choices for ourselves. The idea that we can control our reality is like not anything, because we can't, right? All we have is manipulating our own behavior in order to try to manipulate the behavior of others. And then we start to come into our teenage world and our teenage view, where we start to get some freedoms. we get to start making some choices in our lives. And then this is where the teachings like the law of attraction and all this stuff become very, very popular and attractive, because it's like swinging way the other way. It's like, no, I'm in control of everything. I can control and manifest anything I want. It's all just in my mind. Reality is happening between my ears. If I just think the right thoughts and do the right things, I'm going to get everything I want. I'm completely in control. Yeah, that's just a wild swing from childhood to teenage. And that's good. That's an evolution. We need that. We got to move in that direction, right? We start with, I am not in control of anything. Because that is our experience as children. Life is just how it is. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what my opinion is. It doesn't matter how I feel. This is what is going to happen. Because that's religion, that's parents, that's whatever. Then we get law of attraction, or we get teenage, and we say, all right, I'm in control of everything. The whole world is my oyster. I got some power. I started to realize that I have some say in my life. I started to realize I have some power. And like, to try to get out of this just like very intense victim feeling of being a child, or being in that childlike view of the world where everything is just laws and God, and we don't have control, and we all just have to have faith and pray, and we have no power. We want to swing way the other way, to just, I'm in control of everything. I have ultimate power. I have ultimate control, law of attraction. I can just think what my thoughts and be positive and be happy and blah, 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 and I will get everything that I want. And then we start to see after doing that for a little while that, yeah, we get some stuff, and yeah, we have some control, and yeah, we do have some things we can be in control of in life, and more power than most of us think that we had, and more power than we had as children, like as we start to awaken to our adult perspective. But then we start to realize, right, like I'm not manifest. Do I really want to say that the children in Africa manifested being starving to death? Like, do I really want to say that they created that reality for themselves? Like, do I actually want to believe that it's just every man for himself, and like little children who are born with cancer just manifested that? Like, do we want to say that? And like I say, we start to recognize too that like no matter how hard we try and no matter what we do, we're not able to manifest some things, and we're not able to unmanifest some things, and it doesn't appear that we have complete control. And that's when you start to have to expand your complexity. So right, going from I have no control, everything is just whatever, is a very simple worldview. Law of attraction, I create my own reality, whatever, more complex, but still too simple. And then we start to come into a higher reality of like, okay, there are things that I control. There are things I have a say in. There are things I can create that don't exist. I have absolute power to manifest something new through my actions. Through new actions, I can create new outcomes. I can imagine something I've never had before, and then I can take steps in real reality to create that. Yes, and I live in a reality full of 8 billion other people also creating their realities, also taking action, also having ideas, and we're all in this together. We're affected by the people around us. We're affected by the laws of reality. So there are simply just some things that we will never have based on our genetics, based on the way where we were born, based on certain things that we have no control over. And so it's not one or the other. It's both. And that's what a life of love is. It's when you allow yourself to go on the journey of always having these things that contradict your worldview. And rather than trying to explain it away, right, which I see a lot of people do with the law of attraction stuff, it's like, well, you chose that in a past life. Okay, but you have no proof of that. We can't say that. And at the same time, no, right? There are things we can actually do as a humanity to make it so that children don't have to be born into that kind of poverty. We have the power as a humanity to redistribute resources in a way and to stop being out poor and to all of these things, that those situations and circumstances don't have to exist. And as much as it scares us, we might have to just admit, yeah, life is chaos. Like, we're born, and then that's the life we have. And I know that kind of like blows our security. Like, if there's just chaos or if there's just randomness, then there's no security. And it's like, no, it's not complete chaos and randomness. There's an absolute pattern to it. And we can observe our lives and deal with the chaos we were given and learn from it and evolve it in the ways that we can. And understanding that the kind of the paradox, right? That we have control over some things, and then there are going to be other things we have to just accept that this is the way that they are and we can't control them. And sometimes that's going to mean we suffer and we have pain that we can't fix. And that's a part of being human. That the tragedy of life is going to be there. So living a life of love does not mean you never have negative emotion. It doesn't mean you never experience a negative circumstance. It doesn't mean you're never in a situation where literally you are victimized in some ways, where someone overpowers you. That happens because we live in a world where people have the capacity to do that, and we always will, because we're not equal. There will always be people who have power over other people, who can dominate, who have more capacity to secure for themselves the resources that we need and can take advantage of that. That's always going to be a reality. So what do we do with it? We're going to have to choose at some point that we don't want to keep doing that because it doesn't work. That's born of trauma. But again, that's trauma. So again, what does it mean to live a life of love? First things first is to start to move from a place of accepting and integrating any learning trauma you have. Because being able to live from a state of love means being able to live from a state of constant learning. Constantly allowing your worldview to be exploded, right? Having many ego deaths and existential crises where you thought you had it figured out, and then something happens that doesn't align with your worldview, and you say, okay, that was unexpected. That didn't go how I thought it was going to go. That wasn't the result I was thinking I was going to get. That was painful. So what happened there? Where do I need to expand my understanding of myself and of reality so that I can get a grip on what just happened there? Because if my worldview doesn't fit what just happened, reality didn't get it wrong, right? So this is my second step for living a life of love. Reality didn't get it wrong. The results you got are right. If you expected that this diet was going to heal you and instead it made you sicker, the diet was wrong. Reality showed you. If you thought doing something the natural way was going to give you perfect results, and then you get some imperfect result, reality was right. Your view was wrong. And so, like I said, this is why I teach self-love as the foundation. Because being able to admit that we were wrong, or that we didn't know, that we caused destruction because of our ignorance, our lack of information. We are all, just like everyone else, living from what we think we know. None of us are intentionally going out to hurt ourselves or others. Like, I don't know anyone who wakes up in the day and is like, I just really want to cause destruction to myself and others today. Like, that is my deepest, truest, most pleasurable desire. Most people get up and they're just like wanting so bad to do good today, to do the right thing, to be who they think they need to be. And so much of the time that is so out of alignment with true reality that we self-sabotage and we cope and we get addicted and we deny and deflect and we hurt ourselves and we hurt other people because we're just so confused. That's where this is coming from. We've been told that this is how reality is and this is how we have to be and this is what we have to do and this is what is right and this is what is wrong and this is how you get approval, and if you don't get approval you're going to die. So our nervous systems are all wired that being rejected is death, and in the systems that we have, being accepted requires that you basically kill yourself, your humanity. Look at the people at the top. They're not humans. Like, I get why people say they're lizard people. They really are. They're like living from their brainstem. They have had to destroy their humanity to get there. That's how the system works. So I get it. But like, that's fear. That's what fear is. I need other people to approve of me in order to get enough stuff. And we're just living from that. And then our whole lives are built on that. And so we don't know who we are, and we've destroyed every part of ourselves, and we feel depressed and anxious all the time. And we're coping, and we're numbing, and we don't know how to connect with people, and we feel alone, and we feel isolated, and we feel scared, and we feel all these things. And we're constantly trying to fix it by being more in the system. Because getting rejected and going the other way gets us rejected, and then that actually does happen. We do get rejected. We do get misunderstood. We do get told that we're bad and we're evil for not doing the things we should be doing. And that we're lazy and we're stupid and we're just not trying hard enough. That happens. And so, but that's like the way out. And I'm going to talk about that in another video when I talk about ego death. But when we can love ourselves safe enough that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to not know. It's okay to have been destructive and chaotic. When I was doing my best, I really was working for what I thought was reality. I didn't know. I didn't hurt myself or others for the sake of it. I thought I was doing what was right. If all of us actually go back to the intention we had when we did anything we did, we are all going to find that there was an us who was scared, who was backed into a corner, who was traumatized, who was literally just acting from what they had been programmed to do. Right? And I understand that it's hard for us to admit that we're conditioned to the degree that we are. It's hard for us to admit that we're acting from a place of like, it's not actually so much us working from what we genuinely actually believe, or like when we really start to question these things, we're all going to come to like, holy shit, like, yeah, like so much of that was just, that's what I was trained to believe from the beginning. That was the water I was swimming in. And like, wow, I was indoctrinated. And I had to like create this whole world view that didn't match actual reality. I had to create this whole fantasy about myself and about other people and about reality to make the conditioning I was given fit. And that's why I was so confused all the time, and in pain and anxious and depressed, and just constantly having to rejigger everything I was seeing and everything I was experiencing to match this narrative that didn't really actually match reality. And so when we don't have that self-love, we'll never be able to admit that we were wrong and that we didn't know. Because admitting we were wrong or admitting we didn't know means that we're bad and we're going to get abandoned and we're going to die. We all have this learning trauma. So the second thing of living from love is learning how to admit when the results that you got don't match what you were expecting, when you caused chaos for yourself or others, when you're doing something that's chaotic over and over again. As much as you're trying to stop, you can't. As much as you try to fix it, it doesn't. Every spiritual thing you do to heal yourself and transcend your shit, it doesn't work. It's not because you're wrong and you're bad and you're broken. It's because you're just wrong about how reality works. And that's okay, right? We need to transcend that that's like a moral judgment on ourselves or a failing, or it means that we can't ever know. Because that's, I think, the biggest thing, right? Like we all have this learning trauma that being wrong means that we're terrible, or it means that we'll never figure it out. Like we're afraid to admit that we don't know what the answer is because we don't feel like we are going to be able to figure it out. Like we're going to be able to learn. Because none of us have ever really learned to make that inner safety. So we can relax enough to take in new information. Because that's step 3. The third thing about living a life of love is being constantly willing to take in new information. So this is the other thing. Like when Tony Robbins talks about the crazy 8 cycles, and I talk about this a lot too, is the like we experience in ourselves these dramas in our lives where we cycle between like, right, like one example is like the extreme diet. So I'm feeling shitty in my body, so I'm going to go on the super strict diet, the super healthy diet, the super whatever diet, clean, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to be really, really good about it, and I'm going to be really disciplined, and I'm going to be like super strict about it, and I'm going to lose all this weight, and blah, blah, blah. And you do it for a little while, and it feels really good. And then you start to like lose motivation, and then you start to feel like it's really restrictive, and you start to feel like you don't like it, and you start to feel all these things. And so then you swing away the other way into rebellion, and you binge, and you say like, fuck it, like fuck society's rules, fuck society, everything. Like I'm going to eat whatever I want, I'm going to look however I want, this is my body, like whatever. The swing way the other way, and that feels really good. And then you start to feel sick, and then you start to feel sluggish, and you start to feel like, okay, well, that's not really working, and like the food isn't that exciting anymore, and so then you start to go back towards the diet, and then you do that for a while, and then you go back towards the fuck it, and then the diet, and then the fuck it. And we do this with our relationships. Like we're constantly cycling in and out of these like really emotionally intense, we're gonna fight all the time, like choosing the person that's going to abandon us over and over and over again, which is going to trigger our abandonment wound, and we're going to have this whole big thing, and then we're going to go into isolation, and we're going to heal, and we're not going to talk to anybody, and we're going to be healthy now, and it's going to be fine, and whatever. And then we pick that person again, and then we get abandoned, and we're just like, why do I keep doing this? The reason we keep doing it is because naturally we know deep down that variety is necessary for growth. To be continually exposed to something new. We don't actually want homogeny, right? When we're so afraid and we're just trying to make our world safe, and we want to stay in our echo chamber, and we want to believe we already know everything, and we just want to make everything small and predictable and comfortable, the more we do that, the more we're going to find that we have these crazy 8s in our lives. Like the harder we're trying to control down our life to make it like predictable, safe, and comfortable, and no threat, because no newness, and like I got the job, and then I got the job, like no way I can get fired, and then I got the house, and then I got the wife, and then I got the thing, and like security, predictability. Now every day is like the same day, clockwork. You start to create these crazy dramas in your life, more and more, and they get amplified more and more. Because we know on some level that, like I said, variety is the key to growth. And if we won't allow ourselves to have actual variety of new experiences, exposing ourselves to new challenges, mastering a certain thing and then going farther with it, getting comfortable in a place and then saying, okay, time to move on. It's not about finding the secure thing and sticking with it. It's about getting really good at a thing and then going forward and then abandoning it and then whatever. Because newness is what brings growth. When we don't have that, we will create pseudo newness through extreme emotional rides in our lives to generate that feeling of variety. That's where that's coming from. Like, so many of us are sabotaging ourselves and in our cycles of drama because, again, we're so unwilling to grow and to expose ourselves to actual new information and to something that actually expands us because we're afraid to become ourselves. We're afraid to actually grow into who we really are. We're afraid to expand because we live in a society of crabs in the bucket. We don't want anyone to do that. We don't want to see anyone change. We don't want to see anyone grow. We don't want to see anyone thriving and doing well. We don't celebrate that. We demonize that. We tear down people who say that they're doing well. We look for every little hole we can possibly find. We want to commiserate together. Right? Right now, part of being accepted in society is that you're struggling. Like, do we notice that all the spiritual teachers are constantly coming to you with their really vulnerable blog? And at the end, their program for how they solve that thing. And then in a month, they'll come to you with another really vulnerable blog about how this new thing is actually the answer that got them to be transcended. And then in a month, they'll come to you with another really vulnerable blog. And then the thing that and then it's like, well, I thought you were transcended last time. I thought the last thing you did was the transcended thing. But why are we coming to me with another vulnerable blog? But that's how, like, right, that's how we get roped in. We only get roped in by, I relate to you with my vulnerability and my shitty thing I was in, because I'm in that shitty thing just like you, but I've transcended it. And here's the thing. And then I'm going to come to you with another shitty thing that's relatable to you next month, the new program. And that's why I'm just like, no, right? Like, I'm selling the same shit over and over. Self-love. We don't transcend. I'm not transcended. I still have negative emotions. I'm always going to have negative emotions. I still have pain. I'm always going to have pain. There are going to be things that cause me to suffer that I don't ever understand. I am a human just like everyone else. But when I say I live a life of love, what I just mean is I trust myself to figure things out. So I don't find my security in saying that I already know everything. I don't. And that would be ridiculous. That would be absolutely freaking ridiculous. If you go back to my YouTube videos 4 years ago, I'm still saying sort of the same stuff, but it's like way more nuanced and complex and has changed and evolved now. And I hope that in 10 years, these videos seem silly. Right? Like, yeah, I'm going to keep growing, learning, evolving, and changing. And at the same time, I'm preaching from a place of I have gotten better results. Like, my life has been on an upward trajectory. That's why I feel that I have any validity to teach. I'm not stuck in my same shit. I know more this year than I knew last year. I have more power and autonomy than I had last year. But do I still have things that bother me and that I suffer with and that I struggle with? Absolutely. And will I always? Yes. I am not transcended because I'm not trying to transcend. I'm a human and I'm having a human experience and I'm completely in love with that. And that's what I just think, right? Like, living a life of love is that we just accept we're human. Like, let's just accept it. This is the human experience. We're never going to fully understand it. We don't know why it's happening. Why do we have consciousness? How does it all work? I don't know. But it doesn't matter. Like, really, ultimately, what matters is, what are you experiencing? What can you learn from it? How can it grow and expand your awareness? Do you need some practice and acceptance? Because this is the thing you just can't change right now. And then maybe in accepting it, you'll relax enough that your consciousness expands and you understand something you didn't understand before, and then you'll have more power than you had. Right? That we live this very complex reality, and we're constantly navigating the unknown. And if instead of trying to lock down and say we know everything, instead of trying to make ourselves feel secure in that we have all the answers, we have the book, and the book says these are the things, so if anything that comes up, I can just look in the book, and the book, just do the book. If instead we just say, there are always, for the rest of my life, going to be things that come up that I don't understand, that are new to me, that I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what the answer is. My worldview doesn't fit this. And rather than rejecting it or running away from it or looking to my old stuff for the answer, I have to say, okay, I'm ready to learn something new. This is a new thing I wasn't aware of. That must mean that I've already grown in order to have expanded my consciousness to see something I didn't even see before. That's great. And that's always going to happen. The more you're growing, the more you're going to discover what you don't know. And that's empowering. Because the more you learn how to learn, the more it's not intimidating to be confronted with the chaos that you don't understand. And the more you just say, okay, this is a pattern and I still just don't understand it. And that's okay. So let's open to that. So this is what living a life of love really is. You being able to love yourself enough that you no longer feel threatened when you have to admit you don't know. When you have to admit you don't have the answer. When you have to admit you're conditioned and you're working from programming. And that this whole thing that you've been doing doesn't feel good. Right? So it's not living from pure logic. Because the logic is the manager. It doesn't actually understand what is constructive and not constructive. It only knows how to take the information and make a plan out of it. We don't live purely from emotion either. Because most of us don't even understand what our emotions are telling us. We have we see this spirituality world right now where it's like, I just listen to my intuition. I don't listen to facts. I don't listen to science. I don't listen to whatever. I'm just listening to my feelings, and this feels like an evil agenda. Okay, no. That you're having a feeling, yes. But is it trauma? Is it something deeper in you that needs to be looked at? Do we really actually understand what our feelings are telling us? And that's where logic can come in. So we need to learn how to sit with our emotions and not assume we know what they're telling us. We do need to learn how to be with our emotions, not react for a while, observe reality. What's actually happening? What are my emotions really telling me? And then that's how we're going to learn how to, do we take the new step and try the new thing and have faith in the thing and see how it goes and then be able to abandon it if it doesn't work, right? We're allowed to invest in something and have a hypothesis that this is what it's going to be and this feels like the right direction and I'm going to go in it. And then if it doesn't turn out how we expected, that doesn't mean we failed. That doesn't mean we should reject or abandon ourselves. That doesn't mean we're wrong or bad. It just means that was exactly the right path to go down. Your intuition didn't lead you down the wrong path. It was like, good. What did I learn? That I didn't know before, that I can now add to my pile of knowledge. So for my next choice, I have more awareness, more information to make an even better educated choice. That's how we live a life of love. And we really start, again, with working with our own nervous systems. Like all the work I talk about, the emotional mastery stuff. The simply slowing down, being embodied, actually getting in touch with your body, processing your stuff so that it's not all projection out there. Again, it's not one or the other. It's, we got to look out there, but then we got to really analyze, okay, what's going on in me when I look at that stuff? When I'm down the conspiracy rabbit trail. How does that actually feel? Does that feel liberating and freedom and yeah? Or does it feel like trauma is being stimulated in me, right? Am I being stimulated? There's a difference. And so what's that stimulation? What does that really mean? What's going on? It's both. And then what do I do in the world? What steps do I take out there? Because it's not just an inner game and then we have peace and then we're living from love, right? So then again, sometimes living from love means I cut this person out of my life because over and over again, they've just proven that they are going to be abusive. And it doesn't mean that I think they're a bad person. It doesn't mean that I think they're evil. It's I understand they have trauma and that's just not something I want to expose myself to. And that's okay. It's not this big drama, right? We live from love. I'm hurt right now. I'm confused. I don't like what's happening. So I'm going to have compassion for myself. I'm not going to tell myself, oh, this is wrong and bad. You're supposed to be spiritual. You're supposed to be okay with everything. You're supposed to accept everything. Some days you can't. Some days you don't. Some days you hate it. Some days you got to rant to your sister about how stupid you think everything is and everyone is and how much it all hurts you. That's okay. Do it. Love yourself through it. Otherwise, it comes out somewhere else, very destructive, when we're not just being real about ourselves. Understand, you're going to have a million existential crises and ego deaths throughout your life, where you realize that your understanding of reality was too simple, and you just got to get used to that. Open the door for that to just be how your life is now. You're never going to arrive. You're never going to get it all. You're never going to get to the place where nothing surprises you. I hope I never get there. So get comfortable with continually having no place to lay your head, as it says in the Bible. Be okay with being a lifelong learner. That everything you just learned about how reality works is going to be the foundation for the next thing you learn. Look at results. How are things actually going? And if you have to look at the result and it doesn't go how you expect it to go, that doesn't mean you're wrong and you're bad and you failed. It means you didn't know, and now you can learn. Yeah, exactly. She said, I'm sure the ranting to your sister example is not personal at all. Like, never, right? Because I'm transcended. And I don't ever have negative emotion. And I fully understand everyone and have compassion 24/7. Right? No, of course not. Not at all. And the more I allow myself to do that, the more I do have compassion. I let myself rant, and I rant myself into, okay, I understand. It's not their fault. But when I try and hold it in, that's when it comes out in a Facebook post. Just like, right? Like, that's reality. So you're here to learn. Find your security in, I can figure it out. Security doesn't come from already knowing. Security doesn't come from, I can guarantee that I'll never be in pain again and I'll never suffer again. Security doesn't come from, everyone accepts me and likes me and I'm doing what I should be doing in reality, in the consensus reality. That's not where security comes from. Security comes from, I know I can always be on my side and I will always be here trying to figure it out. And when I can't, and there's just suffering and there's pain, how can I make myself feel safe? And we dance between these two things, like not one or the other. It's pretty much both at all times. We're constantly going to be doing that dance of acceptance, doing what we can to change it. Acceptance, doing what we can to change it. Acceptance, learning something new. Acceptance, learning something new. Evolution. It's both all the time. So get used to it. Living a life of love means you're settled in the reality of the human experience, which is you're never going to have it all figured out. You're constantly going to be having to accept the things that are hurting, to learn about them, and maybe you can change it and maybe you can't. And then you do what you can, and then you do what you can't. If you don't do what you can. Continually. That evolution comes from continually being exposed to new information. So get comfortable being in an existential crisis, being in an ego death, being in a this is not how I thought it was. Then you will have transcended fear. When you stop expecting life to go away, it's never going to go. Meaning you stop expecting you're going to know everything. You stop expecting you're going to figure out no pain. You stop expecting you're going to figure out no suffering. You stop expecting to transcend. And you just accept the human experience. And then all of a sudden you're kind of like transcendent because you are accepting reality. That is a life of love. You have some power, not ultimate power. But you constantly have something new to learn. So be involved in that. Don't worry so much about what the world is doing. You will play your role if you keep evolving yourself. You will know what to do when the time comes. And when there is nothing to do, then there's nothing to do. Do you. Do your inner work. Be in your community. Be in your family. Do things that help awaken you to who you are. Okay? So that's a life of love. Learning, growth, acceptance of yourself as being perfect just how you are and always going to be changing. So there's no shame in growth. There's no shame in becoming something new. And then keep letting yourself have ecstatic experiences after that, where you go beyond the life experience. Because there's more. There's so much more. But when we have that as a foundation, the rest of the transcendental stuff we're all chasing comes naturally. Okay? So I love you. I think the next video we're going to talk about paradox. So, yay. And until then, I think you're fabulous. You're perfect. And you're always going to be changing and growing. All right. Mwah. Have a good week. See you later.